The Feral Bear is one of the best tanks in the game, exactly like I predicted, and partially for even more reasons than I accounted for. So I am gonna go over all the talents, your runes, your rotation, your vesting slot, all in one go, so you can go tank all the BFD Fresh 25 badass naked, because if I can do it, so can you. Trust me, Lord, so can you. For talents, there is a lot of competing builds. I know what you're gonna be saying right away. X talent is a waste, this talent is a waste. Okay, I know, hear me out. This row over here, you're gonna have to waste 2 talents to get to the next one, okay? You gotta choose your pain here. I am gonna first talk about the Omen of Clarity build. This build right here that I'm gonna show you is not ideal, but it is the best cat build that you can get right now, which is something about this. Right here, you get an Omen of Clarity, you get Ferocity right here. If you wanna play Cat and Bear, like I do even though I don't take this build, this is a really good build for Cat because you get free shreds right here. You know, free 60 energy is a big deal for a Cat. Every so often when you hit, you get a free ability basically. It is not ideal for a druid. You do get 10% damage, which is not that much, but you can tank stuff with this build. It is not ideal for a bear though. I wanted to mention it because people are gonna be asking me, what if I wanna play cat too? You can take this, it is not the end of the world. Now I am gonna tell you about the ideal build for a bear. First of all, we're gonna be taking 5 out of 5 in Ferocity, 5 less rage on the cost of the abilities, that is a no-brainer. And now we're gonna go take Feral Instinct right here. This one is also absolutely mandatory. You can't really compete with 15% rage. And now we're gonna take right here Sharpened Claws for 6% crit. Crit translates into damage and translates into rage. We care mostly about the rage generation. As you may know, as a bear, most of your threat is base values, especially at level 25, right? So a lot of crit is a lot of rage, is a lot of threat. And now is the part where we gotta waste 2 talents. We gotta get to the next row. This is only 3, we need 2 more talents. You have only 2 real options here. If you wanna, actually 3. If you wanna PvP, you can take Feral Charge. I personally do not take Feral Charge. And you can also take here Thick Hide, 2 points, that's 2% armor. 2% armor at level 25 is absolutely nothing. And you can also take here Feline Swiftness, that is 30% movement speed when you are a cat. In vanilla, the dodge is only for cat form, not for bear form, so this doesn't affect your bear form at all. It is just for convenient, you know, for questing, for going around. And I gotta be honest with you, between choosing for 2% measly armor or just taking 30% extra movement speed in a tier where mounts do not exist, I am gonna take this one. I know it is not a benefit to me in the raid, but I wanna live a little, I wanna quest, I'm taking this one, sorry. And finally, we're gonna take Primal Fury right here, 50% chance to gain 5 rage when you crit. It is a decent talent, rage is what you really need. Why not Predatory Strikes, you may ask? Okay, Predatory Strikes is an excellent talent, but 1 point of Predatory Strikes in this level is rounded up, I think 13 attack power. That is less than 1 DPS. So no, we're not gonna take Predatory Strikes. It gets really good at 60, but not now. Your runes are pretty simple right here. I spent 40 gold on this monstrosity right here. I'm still mad about it. My Survival of the Fittest rune, it's hell to get. You basically take 20% less damage and you become immune to crits, so that is really big. The thing is, I did a BFD myself without any gear almost, and I gotta tell you, I never struggled with survivability too much. When I struggled with a raid, it was mostly a threat problem. So I wanna mention, you can take Wild Strikes, it is basically Wind Fury, right? If you have no other druid that can give you Wild Strikes, you wanna go Wild Strikes yourself to get 20% extra chance of an auto attack, that's more rage, that's more damage. Obviously, if you have rage issues, we're gonna go Wild Strikes. That's what I take most of the time myself now. I like speed. But if you're fighting a really tough boss, like say for example Gamura, yeah, you gotta go Survival of the Fittest right here. For the hands, we're gonna take Lacerate. Lacerate is the best one. You do weapon damage, you do a bleed that generates a lot of threat, you stack it 5 times. A really high base threat 2 on this ability. Lacerate is insane. The thing is, that there are a lot of mobs that are immune to bleeds. For example, Baron Aquan is in BFD, he is immune to bleeding, so in that case we're gonna take Mangle. Mangle is basically just a single target boom boom ability. It does a bunch of threat. It's not great because it has a cooldown, but if you're fighting a boss that is immune to bleeding, you have no choice really. And finally we're gonna go for Skull Bash. Why? Because it's the only freaking ability that we got for Bear right now. It's an interrupt. I mean, it's nice, it's an interrupt, but yeah, it kinda sucks honestly. I didn't even bother getting it. Honestly, I gotta get my reputation with the supply faction to get it, and I was like, I'm gonna get it whenever the hell I get it. I'm not even gonna work on it. Screw it. Now we're gonna talk about your stat priority. By the numbers I found that clearing BFD you absolutely do not worry about survivability at all, unless your healer is a massive dom-dom that cannot heal you very well, or your DPSers are massive dom-doms that drag the fight out too long and your healer runs out of mana. Those shouldn't happen. You should get a better guild in that case. It's not very hard to meet those DPS checks. But yeah, if your guild sucks and you don't want to find a new guild, I guess you gotta go for survivability. Everybody else though, your best stat is agility. I know people argue to me to death about agility. Agility is crit. Crit is rage. You don't need strength because strength gives you attack power. That doesn't translate into more threat. It translates into a little more damage. It is threat, yes, but being able to get more rage to pump out more lacerates, to pump out more mauls, that is much bigger than making every maul or lacerate hit a little harder by far. Strength and attack power will affect your rage generation a little, but at the same time, 1% of crit will equal to about 3% extra rage generation on average. That is much higher than any other stat. Also, agility gives you dodge, agility gives you armor, so it does make you tankier too. Next is gonna be strength, obviously. Strength is slightly better than attack power because we got now the Horde has Blessing of Kings basically with the aspect of the lion buff, you know, from the hunters. So yeah, you get like a 10% extra value on strength. 1 strength is equal to 2.2 attack power if you wanna calculate that now. And finally you wanna stack stamina. Sadly there is not a lot of talents that give you extra value on stamina, but you do multiply your stamina as a bear. It is a decent stat and you're gonna need some stamina. Now it is time to talk about your rotation. Yeah, okay, single target it is dead simple. You wanna first hot yourself, that means throw a regrowth and a rejuvenate on yourself, and then you pull. Why? Because when you get healing on yourself, not only that is free HP, right? The healing is also threat. So you wanna turn into a bear immediately when you pull and enrage. You know, that's the one that gives you extra rage. Rage generation is also threat, by the way. And now you wanna start with Demoralizing Shout. Why? Because Demoralizing Shout at level 25, for whatever reason, it does a deceptively high amount of threat. Who would have thought? You gotta refresh it every so often, but after that you wanna stack Lacerate. Lacerate 5 times, that is a bleeding, a dot effect. It generates a lot of threat. It is basically the best single target threat in the game by far. And once you do that, you can maul as a filler and make sure to refresh it obviously. And in the rare case that you're having a lot of rage, maybe you're getting a bunch of crits in a row or something, you can dump it by spamming Lacerate. It doesn't have a cooldown. Of course it is not ideal, but if you have excess rage, what would you do? This is, to my knowledge, the best single target threat in the game. I have not seen any log of anybody being able to beat a bear druid. There are a lot of specs that have similar numbers, there are a lot of specs that have more utility, more tankiness obviously, but as far as single target threat goes, right now nothing beats the bear. AoE wise, it is a much different story. Of course, if you are fighting 3 or 5 mobs, you just swipe and tap through targets, right, and you're gonna have decent threat, you're gonna be pretty good at it. But if you're doing actual big AoE pools, your only real AoE ability is Demoralizing Shout. It is about 40 something threat, I don't remember. It is not very good for that. You're not gonna beat a mage in AoE when you do that, but that's fine. You're not supposed to do that. Remember, you're gonna be relying on your regrowth and your rejuvenation to get your initial threat on the AoE, because healing is a global threat, remember that, so the best way to hold threat, ironically, is to heal. since we are not expecting to really hold aggro in a big pool against a mage or a warlock, what we have to do is a little different. You're gonna pull, you're gonna try to hold threat for as long as possible, but as soon as your mage pops off and gets the threat off you, what you're gonna do is swap out of form and heal him or heal yourself, whoever is low, because again, healing is your best AoE threat by far. And otherwise, if we're saying that the mage is good, for example, we're getting a mage with improved blizzard, something like that, and he's like taming the monsters, rounding them up, you know, like a cowboy, really good mage, what you wanna do then is to play goalie. So there's gonna be stray mobs that move away from the pack, mobs that go straight for the mage. You wanna just taunt and stun those guys with bash, and just try to make it as easy as possible for the mage to hold aggro, basically. So yeah, the AoE is not very good. It is doable. I have done many AoE spell cleave, especially. If you wanna do big AoEs, you probably wanna look at a prot paladin. Those guys are busting it right now on AoE like they should. I also wanna remind you that heavy armor kits are your best in slot enchant. They are dirt cheap armor that you get from enchants in vanilla, multiplies off your bear form, so you're getting quintuple value on them. Can you beat that? No, you can't. At the end of this, to toot my own horn a little bit, I wanna say that I got most of it right. I like to believe I got most of it right pre-launch. The only like real big mistake I made is that I undervalued Wild Strikes and Mangle. There are some uses for them, even if I didn't think of that at the moment back then. So yeah, but overall, the bear, one of the best tanks in the game right now. You can't go wrong with the bear. Shamans are coping and sitting right now because you're taking all their gear. There's a lot of shaman tanks. I don't know why people really want to play shaman tanks right now. They are not good players, my man. They are not good at all. They want a tank anyway. Anyway, I think this guide should be plenty for you to go out there and start tanking your first BFD and dungeons right now and get yourself acquainted with the bear. If you got any questions, let me know in the comments. I would love to answer them. Subscribe, leave a like, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.